You're listening to Seen from the Inside. I'm your host, Neha Negandhi. Today in studio with us, I want y'all to welcome Judge Glenda Hatchett, who not only plays a judge on TV, but is one in real life. She also presided over the Fulton County, Georgia's juvenile court system. In 2014, she started the Hatchett Law Firm, which is based right here in Atlanta. But what makes Judge Hatchett so exemplary is her philanthropy philosophy and the way that she gives back to the community. She says, in order to do right, we must be right with our kids. Let's welcome Judge Hatchett to our show.
Oh, thank you so much. It is really my pleasure
Oh,
to be here.
Oh my gosh, such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
You know, you've had your own syndicated show for
Yes.
9 seasons.
Actually, more than that now. It was in original runs, and now it's in syndication, so we're talking about 16 years now. It's still in the air.
Yes, and Emmy nominated twice.
Twice, yes. And then a new show, a new syndicated show. The original one was Judge Hatchett. This one is called The Verdict with Judge Hatchett because we had to have a different name. And it started this past September. So
And it's on Peachtree TV
it is
here
on
locally.
Peachtree TV, yes, locally, every day at 3 and 3:30.
Well, we'll have to look out for that. But listen, I want to start out by asking you about, you were born here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Absolutely.
And grew up in the segregated South.
Very segregated South, yes.
Can you draw some parallels from growing up in the 50s and 60s in Atlanta to where the current times are today? Though there is not as segregated as it was, but there is a lot of racial tension still in there.
There is a lot of racial tension, and I think that we have to really be honest and give voice to that. I did grow up in a very segregated society, but in so many ways, our society is still very segregated. Probably one of the most vivid pictures I can paint is that we have got to really understand that we must seek to understand each other. That when I lecture about topics about diversity in this country, I always say that I don't want people saying we must be tolerant of each other. I want us to understand that we must seek to understand each other. Not to just say, oh, well, you know, you're here or you're there because we have to have quotas or we have to have an integrated situation. We have to have a diverse table of people. But rather that we really start looking at each other for our strengths, understanding that we're different, understanding that we all bring different gifts, that your gifts are different from my gifts, but I can learn so much from you as we come together. And so the 20-second piece that I will share with you very quickly is that I have said in so many lectures across the country, what if we had a world? And I pray for this kind of world where a George Zimmerman would let down his window on a rainy February evening and not look at Trayvon Martin as a predator, but rather look at him as a young kid, a human being, and reach out to him and say, I'm Neighborhood Watch, where do you live? Can I help you? Can I get you out of the rain? As opposed to automatically, because he is an African-American kid, to assume the worst about him. And we've got a lot of work to do in this country. We really do, and we have got to take this seriously.
I couldn't agree with you more, Judge Hatchett, and we were going to explore this topic a little bit more, but I want to get into about, you went to Mount Holyoke College.
Yes.
And then you went to Emory Law School.
I did.
And then you took a job at Delta Airlines.
I did.
And you were the highest African-American female in Delta Airlines.
Right. In fact, I was the highest ranking woman of any color. African-American, Hispanic, Native American, any color.
Right.
Worldwide at Delta Airlines.
And this is back in the 70s.
Back in the, when did I go to Delta? In the 80s.
In the 80s.
In the 80s.
That's a big job. You were a
Yes.
senior attorney and you had a dual role as their PR manager.
I did. At a time when Delta was expanding globally, so that was a time when there were a lot of air carjackings and terrorist moves and taking planes and trying to expand into different markets. So it was a very interesting time.
Yeah.
And I moved over. I was a senior attorney, but I had the additional responsibility after Delta had a second crash, and they thought that it would be really helpful to have a lawyer over doing the media relations piece.
And did that help?
I think it helped. I didn't want to do it at first, honestly, because I saw myself as a lawyer and a litigator. But you don't always know where your path's going to lead you. And I always tell young people, you have to be open to the possibilities, because that responsibility opened up a whole new world of experience for me. Because I had responsibility for all of Europe, all of Asia, and 50 domestic major cities. And so talk about, trial by fire, I learned a lot. And I learned a lot not only about the nation, but about the world.
Well, what was that like to have a seat at the table, at the corporate table, being not a female, number one, and then to be a female of minority descent?
Absolutely.
What was that experience
Well, and
like?
you have to understand that everybody wasn't thrilled to see me.
Right.
I mean, let's just keep it real.
Well,
Everybody
not like today, where we're all so thrilled to see you, Judge Hatchett.
Thank you.
But yes, but it's different.
But it's different, and you are talking about a situation that was dominated by men who were white men, and it was a Southern-based company. But what I realized is that I had to be very, very clear, and I tell young women particularly this today. I tell young people this, but particularly young women of color, that I had to really take the attitude that I would never be a victim. Quick story. I was taking a deposition in a multi-million dollar case, antitrust case. The stakes were high, not to bog you down all the legal mumbo jumbo, but the point is that if I didn't win it, we were facing treble damages. They could triple the damages under this particular statute.
Talk about pressure.
Yeah, pressure. So I'm in New York. I am the lead counsel on an antitrust case. I am, 30 years old? And so I'm there, and I'm sitting in the conference room, and opposing counsel, I was defending the case, and a big antitrust case, and opposing counsel walks in, and I was about to stand up and introduce myself, right? And he looks at me and he says, "We'll get started when your boss gets here."
Wow.
So
Wow.
I said calmly, "I am the lead counsel in this case," at which point he laughed in my face.
My goodness.
So in that split second, I had to determine whether I was going to go ballistic on him, which I am perfectly capable of doing,
Right.
or I was going to nail his ass to the wall and win the case. I mean, I'm just keeping it real. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Because in his narrow-minded, ignorant, prejudiced assessment of me, he figured I certainly couldn't be a lead counsel for a global airline in such a major case. Because I was, 30. And I share that story with people, and particularly with young lawyers, and I said, you gotta pick your fights. Because, I mean, it would make me feel better if I probably cussed him out, maybe.
Right.
But I had to look at the long game, and I ended up winning that case on some preliminary motions, which is unheard of, because he didn't pay attention. And he underestimated me, and in fact, he pulled out his magazine and started reading.
Wow. What about adding insult to injury?
Yeah, but he was the one, I got the last laugh.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So you left Delta.
Yes.
Uh,
People wanted to put me in a straitjacket. They thought I had lost my mind.
when you went to the Fulton County juvenile court system.
People thought I had lost my mind.
And I read somewhere, and I could be wrong, because I never believe everything I read. And please, dear listeners, don't ever believe everything you read. But that your father asked you to pray about this decision to go over and preside over the juvenile court system.
He did, and that's exactly right. Very quickly, what happened is that Judge Romay Turner Powell had been on that court for some 23 years, and she died. And they were looking for a replacement. And someone that I really respected came to me and said, Glenda, I really want to talk to you about this. And I invited my dad to the meeting. But my attitude was, I'm flattered, but I am not leaving my job. Really, I was making lots of money.
You were flying around the globe.
Flying around the globe. I never lost a case.
I bought some fabulous shoes everywhere.
I bought fabulous shoes everywhere.
Right.
Absolutely right.
Right.
And so
we have to keep things in perspective.
Right. And so I was honored. I was flattered. But, I'm the highest ranking woman of color worldwide. Where am I going to leave?
Right.
But my dad said, pray about it. And I'll be honest with you, I did one of those yo-yo prayers. God, what do you want me to do? God, you don't really want me to give up my job. But the more I prayed about it, the more God struggled with me. And ultimately, I made the decision to apply. There were like 63 people who applied for that position, and I was appointed. And it was where I was supposed to be. You were
supposed to be exactly there
Yeah.
to help those kids out, Judge, and I'm so glad you did. On that note, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to keep talking with Judge Glenda Hatchett about her role in the juvenile court system. And then we're going to get into her show and lots of other things. So stay tuned to Seen from the Inside. I'm your host, Neha Negandhi. On our show today, in studio with us, I'm so thrilled to have Judge Glenda Hatchett with us. Thank you so much for coming in studio and chatting with us about all the important things about giving back to our communities and, understanding that once we give back, we're really helping ourselves, right?
We are.
Right?
Absolutely. There's no question.
It's 100%.
It is.
It's so true. But before we get into her philanthropy philosophies, I want to continue talking about, in the previous segment, we started talking about her judgeship over the Fulton County, Georgia's juvenile court system. And Judge Hatchett, I read this, and I believe this to be true, because I've seen your show and I've seen how you interact with people. There was an 8-year-old little boy in front of your bench.
Yes.
And his mother was crack addicted, and he was waiting for his mother to show up in court, and she did not.
She did not show up.
And you got up and disrobed and walked over to this little 8-year-old boy and gave him the biggest hug. Because I understand this because, as I tell people, I have an 8-year-old son. And so it touched me very deeply that it takes so much more than a village to raise our children. Not only is my child my own, but every child is mine.
Absolutely.
Right?
That has to be true.
And I think that's how you presided over that court.
That's how I presided over this court. And I would refer to the children in the court as my children. And that's the way I approached it every single day. That 8-year-old child is still very much etched in my heart. And to your point, my younger son at the time was 6. And that was really the balance that kept me going on that court. Is I had a little boy who was 6 and a little boy who was 11. So 5 years apart. And I would come home to healthy, happy sons every day. Right. And so the question was, what could I do day after day after day to try to bring some stability in these children's lives and to try to bring some hope? And so the balance of having my own sons helped me to be able to deal with those tragedies. But I still remember that so vividly. And that day I actually got down on my knees after I took off my robe because I wanted to be eye to eye to him. And the tragedy was that he had been abandoned by his mother at a shelter. And she said, I'll be right back. And she never came back. And that was July 23rd, and now this is October 8th. And so, this child has just been lingering in the system, holding on to hope. And that was one of the first things. I fortunately got appointed as chief judge right after I got to the bench. So I had a lot of authority to make a lot of changes. And one of the things is that you cannot have a child linger in the system that long. That they have to be brought up within a few days. So, just how do you explain to an 8-year-old that his mother's not there? But I said I'm going to do everything in my power, as you've read about this story, so that your listeners will understand. And I issued a warrant for her arrest. And everybody thought that the new judge had lost her mind.
Good for you.
But I issued it for that same day. I mean, this is on my 9 o'clock calendar. I said, I'm putting it back on my calendar this afternoon at 2 o'clock. And everybody's like, all right. You could hear all the mumbling. And I was new, but I knew enough to hit my gavel, like, do it. And they showed up front of the courthouse, coming up the front of the courthouse step with her by 1:30, and everybody cheers. And I'm like, no, don't cheer. Because she'd been home sobering up from a crack high.
Oh, no.
So we had a lot of work to do in that case. But that was the place where my purpose and my passion met.
So tell us some more stories about your time.
Yeah. Well, you know, a lot of people don't understand that you are presiding. They figure it's a case where you're just dealing with children who have committed, well, in juvenile court we call them delinquent acts, but to lay people it's crimes of shooting and robbing and stealing. And that was one side of the case. Like, the other side was like the little 8-year-old boy where children were left, abandoned, neglected. So I have seen it as bad as you can imagine it. I have seen it a lot worse. I have seen gang rapes. I've seen gang murders. I have seen a college student home for Christmas vacation. He had a used Volkswagen his parents had bought him. He takes it to his best friend's house to show his friend, and as he's pulling up in the driveway, he gets carjacked and they kill him over this used Volkswagen. I have seen a child killed in a gang dispute and then left on the railroad tracks so his body would be run over. I've seen, as worse as you can imagine, I've seen children starve to death. I've seen children beaten to death. I've seen a little girl who was literally locked in a closet and fed like an animal for 6 months, and when they finally found her, she was weighing less than 60 pounds, and her eyesight was affected. She'd been in the dark for several months. I have seen it. I've seen a 15-year-old who didn't know that she was HIV positive until her month-old baby was diagnosed failure to thrive, and they started testing the little boy, the newborn, and they found that he was HIV positive. She was HIV positive because she ran away from an abusive situation, and she'd been out on the streets prostituting herself, and she was HIV positive. I've seen my girls prostituted. This whole human trafficking thing is real, particularly real in Atlanta. And so you see the horrible situations, or a kid who's graduating. I had graduation ceremony for my children in foster care. Because think about it, your parents had parties for you when you graduated.
Right.
Gifts, relatives, friends, everybody.
Yes.
Barbecues, balloons.
Yes.
Kids in foster care don't have that, so I'm thinking, I'm having a party for my kids, and I had my friends like donate stuff, so every kid's got a gift certificate for $250. I had a DJ, we had a party, it was great. This little guy, actually 6'3", he walks across, I give him a certificate, give him his gift certificate, and I hug him and say, I'm so proud of you. And he started crying. And I said, why are you crying? He said, Judge, this is the first time in my life anybody's ever hugged me.
Oh. Well, if y'all don't need Kleenexes at this point, I don't know what to say. You have seen a lot.
I've seen a lot.
And
I have seen a lot.
And how you carry that with you.
You know what happened is the first time I had a case was right after I got on the bench. Of course, the 8-year-old was like literally I've been on the bench for a week, but within that month, I had a case where a child had been beaten to death by his stepfather, right? And so the medical doctor is on the stand. The child advocate, who's seen all kinds of cases, became so ill from the doctor's testimony that she ran out of the courtroom literally throwing up. That's how horrible it was. And so I took a recess, and I went into my office, my chambers, and I went to the bathroom, and I got on the floor and knelt on the cold tile. And I can really, if I close my eyes, I can still remember my forehead against that cheap government kind of sink, you know. And so, this is the prayer I prayed. I said, God, please help me to shift the energy from grieving for the child that is not here. Because I had her siblings in court, right? For his siblings in court. And I said, God, please give me the energy to shift the grieving to do what you have put before my hands to do. And honestly, when I got up off my knees that day, I had a rod in my back. And if I had not reached that point, that turning point, I don't know that I would have lasted more than a couple of months in that job. Because I had to start focusing on what I could do, not the grief of the children who were gone. But the grief of the children who were gone kept propelling me to hopefully spare other children from that.
Well, you have taken that into your syndicated show.
Yes.
Which many of us have seen.
Good.
But you use this rod that you have in your back now. It's so full of empathy.
Yes.
For the people that need it, right? And I mean, obviously, you do justice as well. I mean, that of course that is your job. But I believe in order to be a true pioneer of justice, you have to have empathy and at times sympathy for those people that are in front of you that need that.
Otherwise, we could just have a bank of computers. You stick the facts in, and then the computer spits out a judgment.
Absolutely.
And that is why I believe that you have to have people on the bench who have the heart and want to be there to do, because we want them to leave in better shape than they came in.
Absolutely, right? And we want them to believe they're making a change, as Judge Hatchett has made, hopefully in their lives.
That's exactly right.
On that note, we're going to take a short break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're listening to Seen from the Inside. I'm your host, Neha Negandhi. In studio with us, we have Judge Glenda Hatchett, who has a new show out called The Verdict with Judge Hatchett, right?
Absolutely.
It's on syndicated TV. But
Peachtree TV locally.
Yes, Peachtree TV locally if you're in the Atlanta market, and then syndicated in all other areas. So find it in your local listings. But what I really want to kind of talk about in this segment is your philanthropy philosophy, because you are known to give back to communities, and I want to talk about where that comes from and why it's so important.
It comes from my mom and dad. My father died very suddenly 23 years ago, but his imprint, his handprints, his loving support in him raising me is so all over me. And that's the only way I can explain it. My parents didn't have money. We had very little money, but as I said when I was sworn in to become a judge, that I come from a very wealthy family. Because I come from a family with wealth that you can't measure. And so even though my parents didn't have money, I saw by example my parents give back. We went to church in a small church right in the middle of the Atlanta University system, and so there were a lot of students who would come. And I knew my dad didn't have any money. He may have had $5 in his, maybe he had $10 in his pocket, and he would give $5 away to the students. I mean, I would see him do it over and over and over again. I would see my mother take our clothes, mend them if necessary, and take them, because she was a school teacher in a very, very depressed part of our community. She would pack lunches because they might get a lunch at school under the special program, but she knew that they wouldn't have any food for dinner. So I saw my parents do that, and they taught me, and I am very clear about this, is that your blessings are not for you to keep. Your blessings are to flow through you to bless other people. And I believe that with all my heart, because I saw that day in and day out with my parents. And that we are supposed to lift as we climb. It's not okay for me to be doing all right. It's not okay for you to be doing all right. It is what we do to help lift other people. And the question, and in my latest book, I really drive this home, and I challenge, the title of the book is called Dare to Take Charge. And the challenge that I raise, and I say, I dare you. What is it that you, that I, all of us, listeners, are willing to do here and now to put an anchor in the ground that is not just about us, but will do something for other people that will live beyond our lifetime. That's the challenge. And that is what philanthropy is all about. It's not that you have to be a multi-millionaire with some huge foundation and you're writing millions and millions of dollars of checks. Do I have money that I could maybe buy a membership at the Boys and Girls Club this summer for a parent who doesn't have a checkbook to send their child to the Y, to get them off the street this summer, to play softball, to run bases this summer playing softball, as opposed to doing the running for some drug dealer.
I absolutely agree. And this is our message on the show consistently, that you don't have to write a check. You can give your time. You can give whatever your passion is and find it and to give back to our communities. It is consistently the same, and you just eloquently said it, right?
What about your closet? I cleaned out my closet a few weeks ago.
Right.
There are women who could be using things that are sitting in my closet. I support Dress for Success, for an example, because that is a program that is helping women move from welfare to work.
I love that.
You know,
Yes.
when my children were little, a quick story, 20 seconds, I was pulling together some clothes because I want to teach my children by example. I mean, they're grown men now, by example, that you share your blessings. And I was putting together clothes in a little box, and my son, who was literally 4 years old, and it was a hole in the in his little jeans. I hadn't really looked at on his knee, and you know what he said to me? He said, "Mommy, we can't give this to a little poor kid." You know what we did? We went to the store, the fabric store. We got patches. We ironed them on, and we fixed it. And so it's not only important for us to do it; it is important for us to show by example to our children that they have to give back.
Right, and which will help the next generation.
Absolutely.
And then the generation after that. Okay, so Judge Hatchett, it is time to ask you some fun questions.
Oh, good. Phew. We've been talking about heavy-duty stuff today.
Yes, okay. As I've mentioned many times, you have your own TV show, but
Yes.
what do you like to watch on TV?
I am a news junkie. I'll have to tell you, I'm a news junkie until the whole Trump thing became dominating, so I can't watch the news very much anymore. I just can't. I can't. So my new thing is that I love power. Woo-hoo!
Power.
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 Is
that a show?
Oh, wait.
That's
You got
a
to
show.
catch up, and it's coming back on, so you got to go back and do some binge watching.
Okay.
I also like House of Cards.
That's a good. Okay, I know that one. Okay.
I like that.
And I heard that you like Empire.
Yes.
You like Empire.
Yes.
Okay.
Empire.
Okay.
Empire. Yes.
What would we find in your music playlist?
You would find a lot of gospel music.
Ah.
Yeah, you find a lot. And let me tell you why. Because I need it for inspiration with all the things I deal with day to day.
Yes.
But also you find some old school stuff like Luther. I love
Luther Vandross. Yes.
Oh, love
yes.
Luther. You find Luther. You find a little bit of old school Patti.
Oh, Patti LaBelle?
Yes, Patti LaBelle.
Yes, Miss LaBelle.
You find on the newer side John Legend. Love John Legend, and I love Beyonce.
You do?
Oh, yeah, I do.
Oh, Judge Hatchett.
I do.
Well, I love Beyonce too. So there we go. We should go to the next Beyonce concert.
Let's plan to.
Yeah,
I'm serious.
Oh, did you go this year when she came in September?
I didn't go this year.
Last
I've
year.
been dealing with family tragedy with my daughter-in-law.
Yes.
Do you know that story?
I do know that story,
Yes.
and
I didn't
our
go.
deepest condolences.
Thank you
to
very
and your
much.
family.
Go to my website to follow that. We're posting things on her case. Just the 2-second point is that my daughter-in-law, who's really my daughter, my son's wife, died tragically a few hours after giving birth to their second son, and it shouldn't have happened. They let her hemorrhage to death. It's a horrible, horrible story. But if you go to the Hatchett Firm, TheHatchettFirm.com. There's information posted, and we'll continue to post on that. And my social media, which is, help me now,
At Judge Hatchett on Twitter.
The Judge. Thank you.
Yes.
Judge Hatchett.
Yes. Follow her. Judge Hatchett, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our deepest
enjoyed
condolences to you and your family, but
Thank you.
continue to rise and continue to lift all of us.
Thank you.
You've listened to Seen from the Inside. I'm your host, Neha Negandhi. Stay tuned for next time. Get more inside scoop by following us on social media. On Facebook and Instagram, we're at Seen from the Inside. That's SEEN from the Inside. On Twitter, we're at Seen from Inside. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Seen from the Inside Talk Show. Stay tuned for more.